the importance of black history, I mean, you just can't measure it, man. Because then, and I think this is why people don't want to serve it, and they don't want to put it out. Because then most people will really realize that we have done something, you know, as a group. When they say we, I include all of us, man. Because, you know, the cat's going to vote for Wallace. He's talking about keeping in their places, see, or keeping his place. He's not talking about everybody except Bill Cosby. No, he's jealous because Bill Cosby's got some bread, too.
Yeah.
He's jealous because Harry Belafonte's got 2 Cadillacs or whatever. And he just assumed that this whole country be all white, you see.
If truth only came from perfect people, we'd never hear it. That's something we have to understand. Bill Cosby's legacy is complicated, but that doesn't mean we should ignore everything he ever said. Back in 1968, he spoke on issues that are still relevant today. How black history was being erased from schools, how politicians used racism to manipulate voters, and how people were being controlled by a system that dictated what they could know and believe. He pointed out how black students weren't being taught their own history, how textbooks ignored black contributions, and how the system made it seem like black people hadn't built anything worth remembering. And here we are, in 2025, still arguing over black history in schools, still seeing books banned, still watching the narrative controlled. The playbook hasn't changed. Cosby also spoke on politics, calling out how bigots weren't just voting for a leader, they were voting for a way of life they wanted to protect. Wallace made his racist intentions clear, and yet, people still supported him. Today, politicians use different words, but the strategy is the same. Keep people divided, keep them controlled. And when Cosby called Nixon a pathological liar, it wasn't just about one man, it was about a system built on deception. So, we can debate Cosby the man, but his message still stands. And if we dismiss it just because of who said it, we risk falling right back into the traps he warned us about.
Well, it's just sad, that's all, man. Because I don't believe any of them. I think they're all lying to everybody.
Yeah.
I think Wallace is lying to the white bigots, and they're out there talking about George is going to do it, because George ain't going to do it.
True.
You know. Now, who was that cat today? I read in the paper. It was the president of the NAACP up in Connecticut, shaking hands with George Wallace. Did you see the picture? This picture of the cat. I forgot his name, man. Shaking hands with George. And I said, well, you know, in Connecticut. Now, what is this all about? When George is talking about he's going to run over us with his car, which is going to be funny to see that, you know.
Definitely.
Because the cat's talking about he's going to be president of the United States of America. And this is the man that the bigots are voting for, see. Now, this shows you how much class bigots have. They're going to vote for a cat who's, say, George is going to just keep them in their place. How? George is going to run over them with his car, man. And I believe he's going to do that, you know, because George is cool. And he will run over them if they give any trouble. Nixon, I think, is a pathological liar. Man's got to say some lie about something somewhere.
12 years, all I've read about are white people, you know. And now we're going to have this course, and this course is 20 weeks long. And you say all you can give us is 1 or 2 books by black authors because you don't think there are any other reputable black authors out there, you know. What is that to tell me, you know? It's the same thing all the other kids are going through in the schools. Because all they're being told is that, well, there's no one else out there that's really writing anything that's literature. They're writing a whole lot of garbage. You know? Sure. And like I suggested to him, Eldridge Cleaver, Soul on Ice. Well, he says that's not literature. He says just a whole lot of writing. You know?
What about Man-Child in the Promised Land? There are an awful lot of white people who would really like to know. Maybe not so, you know, so much in the sense that they demand black history themselves, because they can't really be interested in it. I don't look for a white person to be so interested in something that has to do with black people, because he's not educated that way. He's not brought up that way. He lives in his own community. He goes to his own school. He dates his own women, except for when he wants to slip out and find something interesting. The same way the black man slips out to find something interesting. But then there's a heavy-handed, all-white treatment that just isn't fair, you see. Now, when we talk about a book like Man-Child in the Promised Land. I mean, that was like my neighborhood. I mean, the same cats that he talked about, I had cats in my neighborhood the same way, with the gang fights and so forth and so on. Drugs, we never really came into contact with drugs the way Brownie's book did, because most of the cats I hung out with, we were hitting the ball or chasing the ball or something like that. You know, I came into contact once with marijuana. It was a Thursday night dance. I think I was like 13 years old or something. Had on all of the hippest stuff, man. My pants way up, you know, the Daily News in my right pocket, had my Jeff on, and I was looking bad and smoking my father's Camel cigarettes, you know. And this cat came up to me and said, "Give me a light." And I noticed that the butt he was smoking was kind of short. And I offered him a cigarette. I said, "Don't you want to?" He said, "No, man, this is fine." You know, and I put my cigarette up to his, and he made that noise, you know, and I shot out of there so fast, man, you know. But the importance of black history, I mean, you just can't measure it, man, because then, and I think this is why people don't want to serve it, and they don't want to put it out, because then most people will really realize that we have done something, you know, as a group. When they say we, I include all of us, man, because, you know, the cat's going to vote for Wallace. He's talking about keeping in their places, see, or keep in his place. He's not talking about everybody except Bill Cosby. No, he's jealous because Bill Cosby's got some bread, too.
Yeah.
He's jealous because Harry Belafonte's got 2 Cadillacs or whatever. And he just assumed that this whole country be all white, you see. I just feel that if we can get the history put in, that isn't the only thing, but that is a very important thing, man. And it's an example of the racism and bigotry that exists in this country, right, because look at how harmless it is, you see, to say that a certain person did something and they did this and so forth and so on, and make it a part of an exam, but they refuse to do it. Before, last year, I excused the teachers and the school system for it because, you know, you have to be prepared. Yeah. And I said, okay, if you don't have it this year, all right, that's because you're not prepared, but you have the summer. You know, go to your library, go to the reserve book room, read, find out, you know, black heroes in World War II, black heroes World War I, so forth and so on. Men who have invented things. The real black man who was with Lewis and Clark.
Right.
The cat who went to the North Pole, how much he did, so forth and so on. Let's get all this together, man.